The transport ship landed on the dusty ground of Valari Prime with a heavy thud. Commander Park Do-hyun stepped out and looked around at the broken world before him. Buildings stood half destroyed. The air smelled like smoke and old metal. Somewhere in the distance, he could hear crying. This was his new assignment. The coalition had called it a training mission, but everyone knew the truth. They had sent him here because no one else wanted the job. They had sent him here because they expected him to fail. Do-hyun walked through the empty streets toward the old military academy. His boots kicked up dust with every step. He passed Valari civilians, who watched him with large, frightened eyes. They were a feline species, covered in soft fur of different colors. Their ears were tall and pointed. Their eyes were golden and round like moons. But there was no pride in those eyes. Only fear. Only pain. The Dominion Empire had ruled this world for 3 generations. They had broken the Valari completely. The warriors who once protected their people had been killed or enslaved. The children had grown up knowing nothing but cruelty and suffering. Now the coalition had freed them. But freedom meant nothing to people who had forgotten how to stand. Do-hyun reached the academy and pushed open the rusty gate. The courtyard inside was filled with weeds and broken stones, and standing in the middle of that courtyard were 47 young Valari. Waiting for him, they were children. The oldest looked about 16 in human years. The youngest was maybe 12. They wore torn clothes, and their fur was dirty and tangled. Most of them were shaking. Several were already crying, tears running down their furry faces. A coalition officer named Captain Vrel stood nearby. He was a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms. He looked at the children with disgust. "These are your recruits, Commander," Vrel said. "Orphans from the Liberation. The coalition wants them trained as soldiers." He laughed coldly. "Good luck with that. The Valari are broken. They will never fight again." Do-hyun did not answer. He just watched the children. One young female had crawled under a bench and was hiding there, her golden eyes wide with terror. A male near the front was shaking so badly that his whole body trembled like a leaf in the wind. "I will leave you to it," Vrel said. "My report to command will note that this mission is impossible. Do not expect support." He walked away without looking back. Do-hyun stood alone with 47 frightened children. He could have yelled at them to stand straight. He could have given orders like a proper military commander. That was what the training manual said to do. But Do-hyun had read the reports about the Valari. He knew what the Dominion had done to them. He knew that yelling would only make them more afraid. So instead, he did something strange. He sat down in the dirt, right there in the middle of the courtyard. He crossed his legs and rested his hands on his knees. He made himself small and calm. The children stared at him. They had never seen a human before. They had certainly never seen a military commander sit in the dirt like a child himself. "My name is Park Do-hyun," he said. His voice was soft and gentle. "I am a human from a planet called Earth. I am not here to hurt you. I am here to teach you how to never be hurt again." No one answered. The crying continued. The female under the bench did not come out. Do-hyun nodded slowly. "I understand that you are afraid. You have every right to be afraid. Bad things happen to you. Bad things happen to your families and your people. I cannot change the past, but I can help you build a different future." He pointed to himself. "On my world, we have a saying. It goes like this: fall 7 times, stand up 8. It means that no matter how many times life knocks you down, you get back up, you keep going. You refuse to stay broken." A small voice spoke from the crowd. "What if you cannot stand up anymore?" Do-hyun looked for the speaker. It was the trembling male near the front. His fur was gray and white, and his ears were pressed flat against his head in fear. But he had spoken. That was something. "What is your name?" Do-hyun asked. The male looked shocked that anyone would ask. "Toma," he whispered. "Toma," Do-hyun repeated, saying the name carefully, giving it weight. "That is a good name. And Toma, If you cannot stand up by yourself, then someone helps you. That is what I am here to do. I will help you stand until you can do it alone." Toma stared at him. The trembling did not stop. But something changed in his eyes. A tiny spark of something that might have been curiosity. Do-hyun looked at the female hiding under the bench. "And what is your name?" She did not answer at first. She pressed herself deeper into the shadows, trying to disappear. "It is okay," Do-hyun said. "You do not have to come out. But I would like to know your name. Names are important. They remind us who we are." A long moment passed. Then, very quietly, a voice came from under the bench. "Kira, Kira," Do-hyun said. "Thank you for telling me. That was brave." He heard a soft sound from under the bench. It might have been a laugh. It might have been more crying. But Kira had spoken. That was also something. Do-hyun spent the rest of that first day just sitting with them. He did not give orders. He did not make them run or exercise or do anything military. He just talked. He told them about Earth. He told them about the oceans and the mountains and the cities full of lights. He told them about human children who played games and went to school and dreamed about the future. Some of the Valari children listened. Others kept crying. A few fell asleep from exhaustion. But no one ran away. When the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Do-hyun finally stood up. His legs were stiff from sitting so long, but he did not show it. "Tomorrow, I will come back," he said. "And the day after that. And every day until you do not need me anymore. I will not give up on you. I promise." He walked to the gate and stopped. He turned back one more time. "You were born into a war you did not choose," he said. "You suffered because of cruelty you did not deserve. None of that was your fault. But what happens next is your choice. You can stay afraid forever. Or you can learn to be strong. I hope you will let me help you become strong." He left them there in the fading light. That night, Do-hyun sat in his small room and wrote a message to Coalition Command. They expected him to report failure. They expected him to ask for a transfer. Instead, he wrote, "Day 1 complete. 47 recruits present. Training will begin tomorrow. These children are not broken. They are wounded. Wounds heal. Request additional supplies and 1 medical officer with experience in trauma care. We have work to do." He sent the message and lay down on his bed. He thought about Toma, still trembling but brave enough to speak. He thought about Kira, hiding under a bench but brave enough to say her name. They were so small, so scared. The galaxy had given up on them, but Park Do-hyun had not given up. He had seen something in those golden eyes. Beneath all the fear, beneath all the pain, there was still a spark. A tiny flame that had not gone out. His job was to help that flame grow. He closed his eyes and whispered into the darkness. "Fall 7 times. Stand up 8. Tomorrow, the real work would begin." The first month was a disaster. Do-hyun tried everything the military training manual told him to do. And everything failed. When he blew a whistle to start morning exercises, half the children fell to the ground crying. The sharp sound reminded them of Dominion alarms. When he raised his voice to give commands, they froze in terror. Raised voices meant punishment was coming. On the 3rd day, Do-hyun threw the training manual into a trash bin and never looked at it again. He needed help. He sent another message to Coalition Command, requesting a specific officer he had worked with before. Her name was Lieutenant Yoon Hana, a combat medic from Korea. She was one of the gentlest people Do-hyun had ever known. But she was also one of the strongest. She had saved lives on battlefields across 3 star systems. More importantly, she understood trauma. She understood broken people. Hana arrived 1 week later. She was a small woman with kind eyes and a soft voice. When she walked into the courtyard and saw the Valari children, she did not show pity or disgust. She simply smiled and said, "Hello everyone. My name is Hana. I am here to help." Kira, who had finally started coming out from under the bench, looked at her with curiosity. You are also human? Yes, Hana said. Humans come in many shapes and sizes. Commander Park is tall and serious. I am short, and I like to laugh. But we both care about you very much. Together, Do-hyun and Hana rebuilt the training program from nothing. They forgot everything the coalition had taught them about making soldiers. Instead, they focused on making these children feel safe. Morning runs became morning walks. Do-hyun would lead the group through the ruined streets of the city, pointing out interesting things along the way. A flower growing through cracked concrete. A bird building a nest in a broken window. Small signs of life returning to a wounded world. Look at that flower, he told them one morning. It has no water, no good soil, nothing to help it grow. But it grows anyway. It refuses to give up. That flower is stronger than it looks, just like all of you. The children started to walk a little taller after that. Weapons training was the hardest part. The Valari cubs were terrified of guns. The Dominion had used weapons to control them, to hurt them, to kill anyone who resisted. The sound of gunfire made them panic, so Hana suggested they start with something different. She brought wooden sticks from the forest outside the city. She showed them how to hold the sticks like swords. She turned combat training into a game. We are going to play pretend, she told them. These sticks are magic wands. You are wizards learning to cast spells. When you swing your wand just right, good things happen. The children laughed. It was the first time Do-hyun had heard them laugh. The sound was beautiful. Like music he had forgotten existed. They played the wizard game for 2 weeks. Slowly, the children learned how to move their bodies. They learned balance and coordination. They learned that holding something in their hands did not always mean pain. Then Hana replaced the wooden sticks with training rifles that could not fire real bullets. They were just plastic and metal, shaped like weapons but harmless. These are also magic wands, she said. More powerful ones. They require more skill to use. Toma, the gray and white male who had been so afraid on the first day, picked up a training rifle. His hands were steady. His eyes were focused. Something had changed in him over the past weeks. The trembling had stopped. It feels good, he said quietly. It feels like I could protect someone with this. That is exactly right, Do-hyun said. Weapons are not for hurting. They are for protecting. You are not learning to be killers. You are learning to be guardians. As the weeks passed, Do-hyun discovered that each child had hidden talents. Kira, who had spent so long hiding under benches, had a brilliant mind for strategy. She could look at a map and see patterns that others missed. She could predict where enemies would move before they moved. How do you know these things? Do-hyun asked her one day. Kira looked at the ground. When you spend your whole life hiding, you learn to watch. You learn to think about where danger will come from. You learn to plan escape routes in your head. Do-hyun nodded. Those skills kept you alive. Now, they will help you keep others alive too. Toma's gift was speed. His reflexes were incredible. When Do-hyun tested the children's reaction times, Toma scored higher than any soldier Do-hyun had ever trained. Human or alien, he could dodge attacks that seemed impossible to avoid. He could strike before opponents even saw him move. A quiet male named Baru had different talents. He was large for a Valari, with dark brown fur and serious eyes. He rarely spoke, but when they finally introduced real target practice with guns that fired harmless light beams, Baru hit the center of every target. He never missed. Not once. Where did you learn to shoot? Hana asked him. Baru was silent for a long moment. Then he said, I did not learn. I just see where the target is, and I make the light go there. It feels natural. Hana looked at Do-hyun. Natural talent like this was rare. Baru could become one of the greatest marksmen in the coalition. There were others too. A small female named Nari who was only 15 but had more courage than soldiers twice her age. A tall male named Juro who could run for hours without getting tired. Twin sisters named Mika and Sina, who worked together so perfectly they seemed to share one mind. But the biggest change came from something simple. Every morning and every evening, Do-hyun called roll. He stood before the children and said each of their names out loud. Not shouting, not commanding, just saying the names like they mattered, because they did matter. Kira, present, Commander. Her voice was stronger every day. Toma, present, Commander. No fear in that voice anymore. Baru, present, Commander. Quiet, but solid. Like stone. Nari, present, Commander. Clear as a bell. The children began to stand straighter when their names were called. They began to feel like individuals, not just victims. The Dominion had tried to take away their identities. The Dominion had called them slaves and animals and worthless creatures. Do-hyun gave them back their names. He gave them back themselves. One evening, after roll call was finished, Kira raised her hand. Yes, Kira, Do-hyun said. Commander, I have a question. Why do you do this? Why do you call our names every day? Do-hyun smiled. Because on Earth, we believe that a person's name is the most important word they will ever hear. When someone says your name with respect, it means they see you. It means you exist. It means you matter. Kira thought about this. The Dominion never used our names. They called us numbers. They called us things. That is why I use your names, Do-hyun said. You are not numbers. You are not things. You are Kira, and Toma, and Baru, and Nari, and 43 others. You are soldiers of the Valari Battalion. And I am proud to know every single one of you. That night, Hana found Do-hyun sitting alone on the academy steps, looking up at the stars. They are getting stronger, she said, sitting beside him. Yes, Do-hyun agreed. But we have a long way to go. Knowing how to fight is not enough. They need to believe they can fight. They need to believe they deserve to win. They will, Hana said. You are giving them something the Dominion tried to destroy. You are giving them hope. Do-hyun was quiet for a moment. Then he said, When I was young, my grandmother told me something. She said that the most powerful weapon in the universe is not a gun or a bomb. It is a person who believes in themselves. He looked at the academy where 47 children were sleeping. Children who had cried and trembled and hidden just weeks ago. Children who were now learning to walk with their heads held high. I believe in them, he said. Now I just need to teach them to believe in themselves. Hana put a hand on his shoulder. You will, Commander. That is the human way. 6 months had passed since Do-hyun first sat in the dirt with 47 crying children. Now those same children moved like water flowing over rocks. They ran in perfect formation. They handled weapons with confidence. They looked each other in the eyes and spoke with voices that did not shake. But not everyone believed in them. Coalition Command had sent an inspection team to evaluate the Valari Battalion. They wanted to see if the experiment was worth continuing. Most of the officers in command thought it was a waste of time and resources. They wanted proof that Do-hyun had failed, so they could shut down the program and reassign him somewhere useful. The inspection team was led by Admiral Voss. He was a kreth, an insectoid species with 6 legs, 4 arms, and large compound eyes that saw everything. His body was covered in hard black shell, and his mandibles clicked constantly when he was annoyed. He was annoyed a lot. Admiral Voss did not like humans. He thought they were soft and emotional. He especially did not like the idea of humans training Valari soldiers. In his opinion, both species were weak. Putting them together was like mixing water with more water. You just got a bigger puddle of nothing. He arrived at the academy on a cold morning with gray clouds covering the sky. Behind him came 5 other officers from different coalition species. They carried data pads and recording devices. They were here to judge. Do-hyun met them at the gate. He wore his full military uniform, clean and pressed. His face showed no emotion. Whatever he felt inside, he kept it hidden. Admiral Voss, he said, saluting. Welcome to the Valari Training Academy. We are ready for inspection. Voss clicked his mandibles. I doubt that. Commander, I have read reports about your unorthodox methods. Playing games, telling stories. This is not how soldiers are made. Perhaps not, Do-hyun said calmly. But it is how these soldiers were made. Please, come and see for yourself. He led the inspection team into the courtyard. The same courtyard where Kira had hidden under a bench. The same courtyard where Toma had trembled like a leaf. The same courtyard where children had cried just because a human was looking at them. Now, 47 Valari soldiers stood in perfect lines. Their fur was clean and brushed. Their uniforms were neat. Their golden eyes looked straight ahead, focused and calm. Not one of them was shaking. Not one of them was crying. They stood like statues carved from courage. Admiral Voss walked slowly down the line, examining each soldier. His compound eyes missed nothing. He looked at their posture, their equipment, their expressions. He was searching for weakness. He was searching for proof that this was all fake. He stopped in front of Kira. She was 16 now, tall and lean with silver-gray fur. She had grown so much from the frightened child who had hidden from the world. Now, she met the Admiral's gaze, without flinching. Voss leaned close to her. His mandibles clicked inches from her face. It was a test. A Kreth trick to intimidate enemies. The clicking sound was meant to trigger fear. Kira did not blink. She did not look away. She stood perfectly still. You expect me to believe this child could fight? Voss asked. Not talking to her but to Do-hyun. His voice was full of contempt. The Valari are broken. Everyone knows this. 3 generations of slavery do not disappear in 6 months. Before Do-hyun could answer, Kira spoke. Her voice was clear and strong, ringing across the courtyard like a bell. I am not a child, Admiral. I am a soldier of the Valari Battalion. I was trained by Commander Park Do-hyun of Earth. I have learned to fight, to think, and to stand. I will not break. The courtyard went silent. The other inspection officers stared. No one had expected a Valari to speak up. No one had expected her to challenge an admiral. Voss pulled back slightly. His mandibles stopped clicking. For a moment, something like surprise crossed his alien face. You have spirit, he admitted, but spirit alone does not win battles. He turned to face Do-hyun. Show me what they can do. Real demonstrations. Combat exercises. I want to see if this is real or just theater. Do-hyun nodded. Kira, take Squad 1 to the tactical simulation room. Admiral Voss will observe. Show him what you have learned. Yes, Commander. Kira turned sharply and marched toward the simulation building. 12 soldiers followed her in perfect formation. The tactical simulation was designed by coalition engineers to test battlefield decision-making. Teams had to navigate a virtual city while enemies attacked from all directions. Most training squads failed the simulation multiple times before passing. Some never passed at all. Kira led her squad into the room. Holographic walls appeared around them, creating a maze of virtual buildings and streets. Enemy soldiers flickered into existence, armed and dangerous. Admiral Voss watched from an observation platform above. Do-hyun stood beside him, saying nothing. The exercise began. What happened next was beautiful. Kira commanded her squad like she was born to lead. She read the battlefield instantly, seeing patterns and possibilities that the simulation designers had meant to hide. She sent Toma on a flanking run to the left, knowing his speed would let him reach the enemy's weak point before they could react. She positioned Baru on a rooftop, where his perfect aim could cover every approach. When the simulation threw unexpected challenges at them, ambushes and traps and overwhelming numbers, Kira adapted immediately. She did not panic. She did not freeze. She gave clear orders and her squad followed without hesitation. In 12 minutes, Squad 1 completed a simulation that was designed to take 30 minutes. They suffered 0 casualties. They eliminated every enemy target. Admiral Voss said nothing. His mandibles had stopped clicking entirely. Do-hyun called for more demonstrations. Toma showed his impossible reflexes in a reaction test. dodging laser beams that moved faster than most eyes could follow. Baru demonstrated his marksmanship, hitting targets so small and far away that the other inspection officers thought the equipment was broken. Nari and 3 others ran an obstacle course designed for Kreth soldiers, a species known for their physical strength, and finished with a time that would have impressed even Kreth champions. When the demonstrations were over, the inspection team gathered in the courtyard once more. The sun had broken through the clouds, casting golden light over everything. Admiral Voss stood before the Valari battalion for a long moment. His compound eyes moved over each face. He was seeing them differently now. Not as broken children. Not as a waste of resources. As something else entirely. "Commander Park," he said finally. "I came here expecting to find failure. I came here to write a report that would end this program." He paused. "I was wrong." Do-hyun did not smile, but something softened in his eyes. "They did all the work, Admiral. I just showed them the way." Voss turned to face the soldiers directly. "You have achieved something that many thought impossible. The Valari were conquered for 3 generations. Your spirits were meant to be destroyed forever. Yet here you stand, soldiers worthy of any battlefield." He looked at Kira, who had spoken back to him so boldly. "I ask your forgiveness for my earlier words. I called you a child. I was the one being childish. You are a warrior." Kira bowed her head slightly, accepting his words. "Thank you, Admiral. We still have much to learn, but we will keep learning." Voss nodded. Then he turned to Do-hyun one last time. "Training exercises are not war, Commander. These children have not seen real combat. They have not watched friends die. They have not felt true fear. My report will be positive, but I must add a warning. We will not know if they truly stand until blood is spilled." Do-hyun met his gaze without hesitation. "They will hold, Admiral. I trained them myself. We shall see." Voss walked toward his ship, then stopped. He spoke without turning around. "The human method is strange. Games and stories, and calling names. My people would never train soldiers this way." He paused. "Perhaps we should." He left, and the inspection team left with him. That night, Do-hyun gathered the entire battalion in the courtyard under the stars. He looked at their faces, 47 young Valari who had proven themselves worthy. "Today you showed the coalition what you can do," he said. "But Admiral Voss was right about one thing. Training is not war. Someday, the real test will come. Someday, you will face enemies who want to kill you. Someday, everything we have built here will be tested in fire." He looked at each of them in turn. "When that day comes, I will be there with you. And I know, with all my heart, that you will make me proud." 47 voices answered as one. "Yes, Commander." Do-hyun smiled. It was the first time many of them had seen him smile. "Get some rest," he said. "Tomorrow, we train again. We train until no one in the galaxy doubts what the Valari can do." They did not know it then, but the real test was coming sooner than anyone expected. The alarm came in the middle of the night. Red lights flashed through the academy. Sirens screamed. Do-hyun was awake and dressed in 30 seconds, running toward the command center with his heart pounding in his chest. Lieutenant Hana was already there, her face pale in the glow of the communication screens. "Commander, we have a situation. A bad one." She showed him the data. A Dominion remnant fleet, 3 warships and dozens of fighters, had attacked a civilian convoy 2 systems away. The convoy carried 3,000 Valari refugees, families fleeing to new homes after the liberation. Many of those families had children in Do-hyun's battalion. Coalition forces were engaged in a major battle on the other side of the sector. They could not respond in time. By the time reinforcements arrived, the convoy would be destroyed. 3,000 innocent people would die. The only military unit close enough to help was the 1st Valari Battalion. Do-hyun stared at the screen. His soldiers were not ready for this. They had passed inspections and simulations, but they had never faced real combat. They had never killed anyone. They had never watched friends bleed. But if they did not go, 3,000 Valari would be slaughtered, including parents and siblings of the children he had trained. He made his decision in less than 5 seconds. "Wake everyone up," he told Hana. "Full combat gear. We launch in 1 hour." The battalion assembled in the courtyard under the red emergency lights. They looked different in their combat armor, older and harder than the crying children they had been 8 months ago. But Do-hyun could see fear in some of their eyes. They knew what was coming. He stood before them and spoke the truth. "A Dominion fleet has attacked a refugee convoy. 3,000 of your people are about to die. Many of you have family on those ships." He paused, letting the words sink in. "We are the only ones who can save them." Whispers moved through the crowd. Kira's face had gone still as stone. Her mother was on that convoy. Do-hyun continued, "I will not lie to you. This is not a training exercise. This is war. Real enemies with real weapons who want to kill you. Some of you may die today. I cannot promise you will all come home." He looked at each of their faces, the faces he had learned over 8 months of training, of hope, of slowly building trust. "I am asking you to do something terrifying. I am asking you to fight. But I want you to know that this is a choice. No one will think less of you if you stay behind. You have already proven yourselves warriors. You do not have to prove anything more." The courtyard was silent. The wind blew cold across the broken stones. Toma stepped forward. His gray and white fur rippled in the breeze. He was not trembling, not even a little. "Commander," he said, his voice steady as a mountain. "My family is dead. The Dominion killed them before the liberation. I have no one on that convoy." He raised his chin. "But those are still my people. I will fight." Kira stepped forward next. "My mother is on one of those ships. I will not let her die while I hide. I will fight." Baru stepped forward without saying a word. He simply nodded once, his dark eyes full of quiet determination. Nari stepped forward. She was still the smallest of them, barely 15. But her voice carried across the courtyard like thunder. "I spent my whole life being afraid. I am done being afraid. I will fight." One by one, all 47 soldiers stepped forward. Not one stayed behind. Do-hyun felt something warm in his chest. Pride. So much pride that it almost hurt. "Then let us go save your people," he said. "Remember everything I taught you. Watch each other's backs. Stay calm. Trust yourselves." He drew his weapon. "And show the Dominion what happens when they hurt the ones we love." The transport ships launched into the darkness between stars. They arrived at the convoy to find chaos. Dominion fighters swarmed like angry insects around the civilian ships. Laser fire streaked through the void. 2 refugee transports were already crippled, drifting and burning. Screams came over the communication channels, desperate pleas for help in the Valari language. "All squads, prepare for boarding action," Do-hyun commanded. "Squad 1 with me on the lead Dominion ship. Squads 2 and 3, secure the damaged transports. Squad 4, provide cover from the fighters." The Valari soldiers moved with precision. Hours of training took over. Fear became focus. Panic became purpose. Do-hyun's shuttle crashed through the docking bay of the Dominion command ship. The doors opened, and he charged out with Kira, Toma, Baru, and 8 others behind him. Dominion soldiers were waiting for them. Tall, cruel creatures with gray skin and black armor. The same species that had enslaved the Valari for 3 generations. They saw the young Valari soldiers coming and they laughed. "Look," one of them shouted. "The little cats have come to play." Did they bring their human pet to protect them? They stopped laughing very quickly. Toma moved first. His speed was beyond anything the Dominion had ever seen from a Valari. He was among them before they could raise their weapons. His blade cutting through armor like paper. 2 enemies fell before anyone else had fired a shot. Kira directed the squad with sharp commands, her tactical mind reading the battlefield in an instant. Baru, elevated position. Toma, flank left, cover fire on my mark. Baru found a stack of crates and climbed on top. His rifle sang, and every shot found its target. Enemy soldiers dropped one after another, never even seeing where the fire came from. Do-hyun fought alongside them, not leading from behind but standing with his soldiers in the blood and fire. His presence gave them courage. His calm voice guided them through the chaos. They pushed deeper into the ship, clearing corridor after corridor. The Dominion soldiers fought back hard, but they were not prepared for this. They expected frightened slaves. They found warriors. In the main corridor, a Dominion commander blocked their path. He was huge, covered in medals and scars, and he held a weapon that hummed with deadly energy. "I remember your kind," he snarled at the Valari soldiers. "I remember breaking you. I remember your parents begging for mercy. You are nothing. You will always be nothing." He raised his weapon toward Nari, the smallest of them. "Let me show you your place, little kitten." Nari did not run. She did not freeze. She looked at the commander with steady golden eyes and said, "You are wrong." Then she moved. The commander was fast, but Nari was faster. She ducked under his blast and closed the distance in 2 heartbeats. Her blade found the gap in his armor, sliding between plates and into flesh. The commander looked down in disbelief. Blood ran over his medals. "We were never broken," Nari said. "We were just waiting." He fell, and he did not get up. The battle raged for 3 more hours. It was brutal and bloody and terrifying. Several Valari soldiers were wounded. Do-hyun himself took a laser blast to the shoulder that burned through his armor and into his skin. But he refused to stop. He refused to leave his soldiers. When the last Dominion fighter was destroyed and the last enemy ship surrendered, the communications channels exploded with cheering. 3,000 refugees had been saved. Not one of the 47 Valari soldiers had been killed. Do-hyun stood on the bridge of the captured Dominion ship, looking out at the stars. His shoulder was bleeding badly. Hana had bandaged it, but he needed real medical care soon. He did not care about that right now. Kira approached him. There was blood on her armor. Some of it hers, most of it not. Her eyes were different now. She had seen death. She had dealt death. She would never be the same. "Commander," she said quietly, "my mother is safe. She wants to thank you." Do-hyun shook his head. "Do not thank me. You saved her. All of you saved them. I just showed you the way." He looked out at his soldiers, scattered across the captured ships, tending to wounds and helping refugees. They were tired and hurt, and some of them were crying now that the adrenaline was fading. But they were alive. They had won. That night, after the wounded were treated and the refugees were secured, Hana found Do-hyun sitting alone in a dark corner of the medical bay. Tears were streaming down his face. "Commander? Are you injured?" He shook his head. "They were so scared," he whispered. 8 months ago, they could not even look at me. They hid under benches. They trembled at loud noises." He wiped his eyes. Today they saved their people. Today they looked at enemies who had tormented their families for generations and they said, "No more." Hana sat beside him. "You gave them that. You taught them how to stand. I just believed in them," Do-hyun said. "That is all. I believed in them when no one else did." He looked at his bandaged shoulder, at the blood seeping through the white cloth. It hurt badly. He did not mind. "It was worth it," he said. "Every moment was worth it." 1 year after Park Do-hyun first arrived on Valari Prime, the Coalition held a ceremony unlike any other. The 1st Valari Battalion was to be officially recognized as a full combat unit, the first of their species to earn this honor in galactic history. No more training designation. No more experimental status. They were real soldiers now, equals to any military force in the Coalition. The ceremony was held in the great plaza of the Valari capital city. Once, this plaza had been a place of fear, where Dominion masters had punished slaves and made examples of rebels. Now it was decorated with flowers and flags, filled with thousands of Valari civilians who had come from across the planet to witness history. Representatives from dozens of Coalition species were present. Admiral Voss himself stood in the front row, his mandibles still for once, his compound eyes watching with something like respect. News drones hovered overhead, broadcasting the event to billions across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to see if the stories were true. The 47 soldiers of the 1st Volari Battalion stood in perfect formation in the center of the plaza. Their armor gleamed in the sunlight. Their fur was brushed and clean. Their golden eyes looked forward with pride and purpose. They had changed so much from the broken children they had been. Kira stood at the front, tall and lean, her silver-gray fur shining. She had become a tactical genius, already receiving offers from Coalition Special Forces. Toma stood beside her, his gray and white fur moving slightly in the breeze, his body relaxed but ready to move faster than thought. Baru was a shadow behind his rifle, watching everything, missing nothing. Nari, still the smallest, stood with her chin raised high, her courage burning brighter than ever. They had all lost their childhood innocence. They had all gained something else instead. They had gained themselves. Commander Park Do-hyun stood before them one last time as their training officer. After today, they would be assigned new postings across the coalition. Some would join elite units. Some would become instructors, training the next generation of Volari soldiers. Some would return home to protect their families and rebuild their world. His time with them was ending. Do-hyun wore his dress uniform, covered in medals he rarely acknowledged. His shoulder still ached from the wound he had taken in battle 3 months ago, but he stood straight and strong. He looked at the faces before him, the faces he had come to love like family. The crowd fell silent. Billions of beings across the galaxy watched. Do-hyun began to call roll. One final time. Kira. Her voice rang out clear and proud, echoing across the plaza. Present, Commander. Toma. Present, Commander. No tremor. Not anymore. Never again. Baru. Present, Commander. Quiet and solid as stone. Nari. Present, Commander. Strong as thunder. He continued down the list. Juro. Mika. Sina. All 47 names. Spoken with respect and care. All 47 voices answering with pride. The ceremony was simple but powerful. Each name was a small miracle. Each answer was proof that broken spirits could be healed. When the last name was called and the last voice answered, Do-hyun stood silent for a moment. He looked at his soldiers, his children, his family. Then he spoke. 1 year ago, I came to this planet expecting to find failure. The galaxy had given up on you. Your own people had given up on themselves. Everyone said the Volari were broken forever. That 3 generations of slavery had destroyed something that could never be rebuilt. He paused, letting his words settle over the crowd. They were wrong. A murmur moved through the watching civilians. Old Volari who had lived through the worst of the Dominion's cruelty. Young Volari who had grown up hearing that their species was weak. They all listened. You were not broken, Do-hyun continued. You were wounded. There is a difference. Broken things cannot be fixed. Wounded things heal. And you have healed. You have grown. You have become warriors that any species in the galaxy would be proud to fight beside. He stepped closer to the front line of soldiers. I am proud of you. Not because you became soldiers. Not because you won battles. I am proud of you because you became yourselves. The universe told you that you were worthless, that you were nothing, that you could never stand again. You proved the universe wrong. Never forget that. Never let anyone make you forget. Kira stepped forward from the formation. She had been chosen to speak for all of them. Her voice carried across the plaza, strong and clear. Commander Park, we have something to say. Do-hyun nodded for her to continue. Kira looked at him with golden eyes full of gratitude and love. 1 year ago, we were cubs who cried during training. We hid from shadows. We trembled at the sound of voices. We had forgotten what it meant to be Volari. We had forgotten what it meant to be alive. She gestured at the soldiers behind her. You changed that. Not by yelling at us or forcing us or punishing us. You changed it by sitting in the dirt with us. By learning our names. by telling us stories about your world and your people, by showing us that strength is not about being unafraid. It is about being afraid and standing anyway. Tears began to form in her eyes, but her voice did not waver. We were taught that humans were soft, that emotional species were weak. We were taught that compassion was a flaw. She smiled, and it was beautiful. We were taught lies. The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. Humans are not soft, Kira said. They are strong in ways we never understood. They are strong because they care. They are strong because they refuse to give up on people. Commander Park refused to give up on us when everyone else had. She turned to face Do-hyun directly. We are soldiers now. We will fight for the coalition. We will protect our people. We will make sure no child ever goes through what we went through. She bowed her head in respect. And we will never forget the human who taught us how to stand. The plaza erupted in cheers. Valari civilians were crying openly, hugging each other, raising their voices in celebration. The sound washed over the soldiers like a wave of love and pride. Do-hyun felt tears on his own face. He did not try to hide them. Some emotions were too big to contain. He raised his hand to salute his soldiers. Not a command. A gesture of respect from one warrior to another. Equal to equal. The honor was mine, he said. Every moment with you was a gift. After the ceremony, there was celebration. Music and food and laughter filled the plaza as civilians mingled with soldiers. Families were reunited. Old wounds were acknowledged. New hopes were born. Admiral Voss approached Do-hyun through the crowd. His mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Commander Park, you have done something remarkable here. Do-hyun shrugged modestly. I just did my job, Admiral. Voss shook his massive head. No. You did much more than that. You proved something important about humans. Something I did not believe before. What is that? Voss was quiet for a moment. That caring is not weakness. That patience is not softness. That believing in people can change them more than any punishment or discipline. He clicked his mandibles again. The Kreeth have much to learn from your species. Before Do-hyun could respond, a small figure pushed through the crowd and grabbed his hand. It was Nari, still in her armor, her eyes shining with tears and joy. Commander. My grandmother wants to meet you. She was crying through the whole ceremony. She said she has not felt hope in 60 years. And you gave it back to her. Do-hyun smiled and let himself be pulled through the crowd. Years passed. The 1st Valari Battalion became legend. They fought in a dozen campaigns across the galaxy, never losing their reputation for courage and skill. They trained hundreds more Valari soldiers, passing on what they had learned. They built schools and hospitals and homes on their world, helping their people rebuild from the ashes of slavery. In every Valari military academy, the first lesson taught to every new recruit was simple. A human once believed in us when no one else did. We honor his memory by believing in each other. Do-hyun retired after 20 years of service. He could have gone anywhere, taken any position, lived comfortably on any world in the coalition. Instead, he chose a small farm on Valari Prime, surrounded by forests and fields of golden grain. He was not alone. He was surrounded by the families of his former students. Kira lived nearby with her children, who called him grandfather. Toma visited every month with his wife. Baru had become a legendary marksman and instructor, but he always made time to sit with Do-hyun and watch the sunset in silence. Every year, on the anniversary of the battle that had saved 3,000 lives, the surviving members of the original 47 would gather at Do-hyun's farm. Some were older now, their fur gray at the edges, their bodies carrying scars from many battles. Some brought children and grandchildren of their own. But they all came. They would share a meal together, telling stories of the old days. The days of fear. The days of transformation. The days of fire and blood. The days of triumph. And every year, without fail, Do-hyun would stand. His body was old now, his movements slower, but his eyes still sparkled with life. He would look at the faces gathered around him, the faces he had loved for so many years, and he would call roll one more time. Kira, present. Commander. Her voice was softer now but still strong. Toma, present, Commander. He was a grandfather himself, his gray and white fur fully white. Baru, present, Commander. He still never missed. Nari, present, Commander. Still small, still brave, still burning. 47 voices, some present in body and some remembered in spirit, answered their names. They answered for themselves and for all the Valari who would come after them. They answered for the broken children they had been and the proud warriors they had become. When the roll was complete, Do-hyun would smile that rare smile of his and say the same thing he had said after their first battle, their first triumph, their first taste of victory. I am proud of you. I have always been proud of you. And I always will be. The cubs who used to cry during training had grown into legends, and they never forgot the human who had taught them to stand.